So think about how powerful our bodies are and our minds, that even though they still have that pain, when they just gave that voice, that they didn't have that pain anymore and that missing tone shows up. How incredible is this?
The biggest problem we have in at least Western society is giving our power away.
If you don't listen to the whispers, you get the nudges. If you don't listen to the nudges, you get the hammer. And the hammer is the cancers, the Parkinson's, the degenerative stage 4 illnesses, because maybe you stubbed your toe, you didn't listen. Then you broke your ankle, you didn't listen. What I talk to people about is the higher the vibration, then it seems like the healthier that you are. I think that there's spiritual forces to sound and spiritual forces to light.
What is your definition of true healing? I'd like to welcome to the show Gail Lynn. How you doing, Gail?
Good. How are you?
Thank you so much for being here.
So excited to be here.
Thank you so much for coming down to Next Level Soul Studios. I really appreciate it. We met through a mutual friend, Susie Miller, who I absolutely adore.
Yes.
Her episode was amazing on the show, and she recommended I take a look at you and what you're doing, and we spoke, and I was just opening up Next Level Soul TV. I was in the preparatory motions of building up that streaming platform, and then you're like, well, I have a documentary, and I'm like, let me look at it. I watched the documentary. I'm like, oh my God, this would be an amazing addition to the platform. Would you be interested? And she's like, absolutely, and it was just worked very synergetically. Because you had no idea I was building that at the time.
No idea.
Because no one knows about it. As of this recording, they'll know about it. But before, no one really knew that I was building out this entire spiritual healing, light-filled platform. And your film was just a perfect thing. It's called It's Time. So when I went down the rabbit hole on that, I was like, oh, I have to have her on. And now you're here. So we're going to talk all about what you're doing and your journey. So my first question to you is, you had some health issues early on in your life, and you've tried everything, and you're trying to figure things out. So can you talk to everybody a little bit about what was happening to you, and then what turned the dial for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I started out in engineering at a young age, and then I moved on to telecom, and then I moved into Hollywood. And after those 3 careers in 25 years, I was finding I had migraine headaches, I had insomnia, I had thyroid issues, I had liver issues, my hair was falling out, if you can believe that. And I had cystic acne, and I'm thinking, I'm 37 years old, that happens when you get older, right?
Well, by the way, and I could attest, anyone who does work in Hollywood, these are the symptoms.
I almost had a nervous breakdown.
Oh, yeah, it's a very stress-filled situation.
Intense. And 7 years of that, raising the money and doing, I feel like Hollywood is so many different businesses. From the time that you write the business plan, you raise the money, you do pre-production, post-production, editing, marketing, film festivals. There's all these different businesses you have to learn. Right. And so at the end of that, I was spent. And I knew I was really sick. But again, here's me. Oh, I'm 37. I'm getting older. I'm 54 now.
I'd kill to be 37.
Oh my gosh, no.
Can you imagine?
I am so happy being 54. I am so happy with how I feel. I love my life. It's amazing. But at that time, I was like, if I don't make some changes, I'm not going to make it. Right. But I thought I was really good in corporate America. And even Hollywood, it's like project management, producer, project manager. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was good at. And so I was always told the biggest sin of all is not using your God-given gift. And my God-given gift was operations and project management. I was really, really good at it. So I started to seek out different alternative, and I had been trying to seek out alternative methods since I was in my 20s because I always had yeast infections. Okay, now nobody told me you get a yeast infection if you drink a Mountain Dew and eat a Snickers bar and have pasta for lunch and pasta for dinner every day. Nobody told me that. Right?
With breadsticks, I'm sure.
With breadsticks, right? Olive Garden, right? So I said, okay, now in my 20s, I was getting a yeast infection every month. And I'm sure there's women out there that'll relate to this. It was just yeast and candida just building up every month. And so then I realized, oh, I can cut out the pasta, cut out the sugar, and the yeast infections go away. Wow, great. Mm-hmm. And then I was watching my grandma. She had diabetes, and my mom said, oh, diabetes runs in our family. Okay, well, Grandma worked at the bakery, ate Danishes off the line every day. That's why she has diabetes. And, my mom, after breakfast, after lunch, after dinner, we would have dessert. We were limited to dessert, but it was sugar, sugar, sugar. So I realized that had to change. So at an early age in my 20s, I started to look at health. And I started to realize hydration is important and eating well is important. So when I came up, into my 30s and I'm sick and I say, okay, what can I do? I tried Western medicine. I even worked for a doctor's office when I was 17. Mm-hmm. And my migraines started at 17 years old. And when that happened, my mom had no idea what was happening. And I just remember being in bed and I couldn't get into the light. I couldn't talk. Scared her half to death. So when I asked the doctor, what can we do for migraines? Oh, no one knows why people get migraines. So there's nothing we can do. They put me on a drug, and I didn't want that. I knew that, even at a young age, I knew there was more than just drugging it up, taking pills, surgeries. And so at 37, I said, what else can I do? So I was at a C-level conference, and there was a man that gets on stage, and he says, sound and light therapy. And he has this light box. And it was a rectangular box. Okay, this is a little bit weird. My engineering mind is thinking, okay, what is this thing? And he shows a presentation of a little boy that when you see his face, there's no soul behind the eyes. Mm-hmm. And he didn't have hair, he didn't have teeth. And this woman was saying, no one gets to say that my kid is never going to have hair, never going to have teeth, never going to talk. And so mother's love is so powerful. And you can't, doctors can't put an expiration date on these kids because the mother's not going to let that happen. So she found this light box. So I'm watching the presentation. I'm looking at this little boy. And as he does sessions, the little boy, you see a soul come into the eyes. Wait a minute, what is this? And so I bully my way up to the stage after the presentation. The little boy does come on stage with arm crutches, and he's hair, and he has teeth, and he's walking, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this crazy light box did this? And it was just sound and light therapy. So I bully my way up to the stage, and I say to him, I said, can this help with migraine headaches? I just saw this kid, right? Sure. But that's what plagued me. And he says, the body doesn't know disease by name. And I'm like, what an idiot. That's not an answer. I'm from corporate America. Give me a yes or a no. Mm-hmm. Well, now knowing what I know about, you can't make claims. And that was a perfect answer. Mm-hmm. The body doesn't know disease by name. Mm-hmm. Something's imbalanced. There's something going on. So I flew to a location that he had. And within 2 sessions, the severe cardiovascular stress was gone, and I started to get a migraine while I was there. Then come on, you never know when you're going to get one. And it went away really quickly. Weird. Okay, there's something to this. And when I got home, after 4 sessions, I got home and I rode my bicycle up a hill, which I had asthma since I was 4, and I got to the top of the hill and I could breathe. Couldn't have been that silly light box. Of course, because my engineering mind, there's no way. And then I went to the eye doctor, and he said, why are you wearing glasses? Your eyesight's 20/20. I said, I've been wearing glasses since I was 19. He said, well, you don't need glasses. Okay. Did this sound and light therapy do this? We're vibrational beings of light and sound from source, from God. Why aren't we healing with sound and light? That's when I just dove into everything. I dove into sound and light therapy. I read over 200 books, and eventually everything went away. The cystic acne went away, the hair grew back in, got off my thyroid meds, my liver healed, my migraines. I haven't had one for, knock on wood, 15 years. It's crazy. So how is that?
So I have to ask, because I always like to play devil's advocate here. How in hell is this happening? Like, what is the technology? What is the science behind this? Because it's not just woo-woo stuff like, hey, here's a crystal. And not that there's anything wrong with crystals, but you know what I mean? Like, if, you're just throwing an herb on top of you or sage is smoking and everything's going to work out, that doesn't seem to make a whole lot of logical sense. Now, obviously, your your results speak for themselves. But what was the technology? What was the science? Is there a science behind this healing?
So it's a great question. That's what I dove into. And I thought, I'm lying in this light box on a 4-inch foam pad, and it's got these like automotive speakers underneath. And you're looking up at a clearly painted rainbow colored light bulb. How can this even work? So when I started diving into the science of it, if we're vibrational beings of light and from source, then sound and light can heal us. The sunlight can heal us. Mm-hmm. We know that. And so I started looking at the music, the type of music, because I did purchase 2 of these light boxes, opened up a center in 2010 in Denver, and having amazing results, and just asking the people, like, what are you doing? Is this all you're doing? Are you doing something else? And most of the people were so desperate that they would try to lie in this silly light box, right? And see what happened. And so when I started studying the waveforms of instruments, this is where I think it came in. I looked at the solfeggio suite and the different frequencies. And when I looked at the waveforms of instruments, the flute has a really simple waveform, and it's affecting the liver. And so many people, I'd put them in the box on flute music, and they would tell me, oh, I felt some uncomfortableness in my right side here. Well, that's where your liver is. And then I started to look at the chakras and the colors. So what I put together is drumming can help, that waveform can help bring the root chakra back into balance, as well as red light. And so started building a protocol around the waveforms of instruments, colors of light. And when you look at Edgar Cayce's work, and Edgar Cayce's consciousness came into this, Royal Rife, Wilhelm Reich, it's a bit of an Oregon box, Nikola Tesla, and I started to bring this all together. When you bring together the spiritual forces of sound and the spiritual forces of light, as Edgar says, it's a great modality for the future. He said that in the 40s.
Mm-hmm. A little bit ahead. Well, Edgar was a little bit ahead of his time.
A lot ahead, yeah.
Very, very interesting. So, okay, so let's dive in a little deeper here. I mean, let's take them one at a time. So, sound therapy. Let's go through sound therapy first. I understand the idea of vibration or frequency, that we all are at a frequency. Scientifically, that's determined.
Right.
Planets ring at a certain frequency. The universe has a certain frequency to it. How does the sound bring things back into, like, can you explain if there is a science behind what is happening to the body?
Well, do you know David Hawkins?
Yes.
Power versus Force.
Yeah,
so if you look at, people live in fear and they're at a very low vibration. Mm-hmm. And this is where I think I can answer the question that maybe it will make sense. Shame, guilt, fear, those kind of emotions are a low vibration. Love is the highest vibration. Mm-hmm. So when you can elevate to a place of love, I don't believe disease lives there. Mm-hmm. I believe that disease lives in fear and shame and guilt. And even when I went to a conference called Music as Medicine, we went to Barcelona, and I raised my hand and I asked, are they using the waveforms of instruments? Are they using the frequencies? And these were all a lot of doctors. And the doctors that were on the stage were saying, oh no, we're letting people listen to their favorite music. If it's, rap music or whatever, I'm thinking, I don't think it works that way. I think that the musician also has to have a certain vibration for the music to be of healing nature. And so I think when we raise our vibration, that's when we come into balance. We come into harmony. We come into love. We come into our highest self in kindness, in gratitude. And so I kind of explain to people, when they're at that lower vibration, living in fear or anger or guilt, they're susceptible to disease, because disease is attracted to that. So if I have to explain different frequencies, there's also the solfeggio suite, 528 hertz. They say is the frequency of love, or it heals the DNA. Everybody has a guess. I don't think there is one size fits all. And so what if you're vibrating at 600 hertz or 800 hertz? Now, when David Hawkins wrote his book, I think 1100 hertz was, or maybe it was 1000 hertz was the Christ consciousness, the Christ vibration. But when he passed away, he even said, it's higher now. it's 1200, it's going up. So what I talk to people about is the higher the vibration, then it seems like the healthier that you are.
Is there a way to find out what vibration? Is there some sort of method to find that out?
People use the pendulum in muscle checking,
Okay.
but you have to be really careful with muscle checking. I mean, if I'm going to muscle check, do I need chocolate? I'm going to probably get a yes. I'm going to make it a yes, right? Yes, for sure. I definitely need chocolate. But people will do muscle checking, and they have to be really careful. I've had so many doctors and physicians do muscle checking and say, oh, this modality isn't right for you, but they don't know anything about it.
When you say, is it muscle checking different than muscle testing?
I think it's the same.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
So
that's
some people do
basically when you're putting
the
the
tilt
arm-
test. Some
Yeah.
people do the arm. Some people do this. Some people do, this. And so when you're doing that kind of stuff, you have to be really careful because emotions can get in the way. And I do think our consciousness comes into play. I had a doctor and he said, oh, no one's testing to do, the sound and light therapy. Once I educated him on what sound and light therapy was, then everybody was testing to need it. So it came into his consciousness. Interesting.
Yeah. So there's when you were talking, something just popped into my head was that documentary from the Japanese researcher with sound on the particles of water.
Emoto?
Yes.
Yes,
Emoto. Yes, Emoto. Where he was able to project sound, but also just words.
Yeah.
Just writing the word love on a bottle of water and writing the word hate on a bottle of water, letting it sit overnight, and then the next morning putting them both underneath a microscope. And literally there'd be something different. Like one was beautiful, the other one was like edgy and off and very distorted, which is a fascinating idea. So, and then when you yell at a plant, or play it, speed metal, versus something classical. There's literal differences in the way they grow. So sound has been, it's always been something very powerful to us, but it's, I think, more and more coming into play that people are starting to recognize on a more mainstream level that, no, there's something here. It's not just woo-woo and chakras and crystals and patchouli.
That's from the 70s, right?
I understand. But that's where a lot of this stuff originated from the 60s of the hippie movement, is where it really came up. Now, not many people were in the 50s talking about this. Edgar was one of the few in the 40s. But the 60s is where a lot of this came up, and a lot of it was, washed away with the same, they threw the baby out with the bathwater with a lot of these ideas. But now over the decades, people are starting to come around to not only just like the idea of it, but the science behind it. So like in the documentary, in its time, one of your speakers was showing an example of what a certain vibration on the speaker.
The cymatics.
Yeah, and they threw sand on it, and every, I think, frequency automatically had its own geometric sacred geometry that just formed automatically.
Yep.
That's insane.
Right?
How does that, can you explain that?
I can't explain that, but we can talk around the
Yes,
Emoto
please.
thing.
Yeah, please.
And we'll kind of go to the tones and different things too. So with Emoto's work, you're right. And it's beautiful, perfect snowflakes when you're talking about love and gratitude. But then when you talk about hate and anger and fear, then the crystals are all gnarly. They're ugly. Think about our body, mostly water. Think about when we say, oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, that was dumb that you did that. Think about what we're doing to the cells in our body. So when I watched the movie What the Bleep, when she was writing the little hearts, I did that for a while. I'm like, I'm just going to take my little eyeliner pencil and make little hearts all over my body because I want to love myself. And so many people don't love themselves. And so think about their gnarly cells and think about then attracting other people that don't love themselves. And so that vibration that they're attracting. And so there's another part too of the cymatics. You wanted to talk about the cymatics. Yes, it creates mandala forms.
Yeah.
So I've talked to John Stewart Reed. He's kind of the modern day cymatics expert. And we've talked about music and the different frequencies. And it creates this beautiful mandala effect, different frequencies. And so think about what those frequencies are doing to our bodies. And that's really where I love talking about. And then what if you've had a lot of astrologies on the show, astrologers, and they talk about when you were born. What if when you were born, you were missing a tone from your voice? And that created an illness or disease that's common. So a lot of people say, oh, Scorpio, I'm Scorpio. Scorpios have a lot of colon issues. Well, maybe that's because when you dropped on the planet, there was a tone missing from your voice. So there's now voice analysis people that do, you record your voice and they'll tell you you're missing the tone of G sharp, or you're missing the tone of F sharp, or F or C. And it correlates really well to what's going on with their body. So I used to do this in my center. And I had a lady come in and I listened to her voice, and it's something you have to do. It's not like you just say 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, whatever. You want to talk to them about their childhood. You're using a digital tuner and a microphone, and you're 6 feet away from them. There's no, the 6 feet that we had to social distance.
Yeah.
I don't think there was an accident about that, how our auras connect with each other. So you're about 6 feet away from them, and you talk to them about their childhood, talk to them about their relationship with their parents, and say they have a pain in their body. They have a hip pain. You let them give that pain an audible voice, and they might just be like, oh, it's terrible. But then at the end of that session, you ask them, what would the audible voice be if you didn't have to deal with that pain? And maybe they'd be, oh, that's when the missing tone comes in. So think about how powerful our bodies are and our minds, that even though they still have that pain, when they just gave that voice, that they didn't have that pain anymore, and that missing tone shows up. How incredible is this? What is going on that... So I had clients that used to come in, and my one client worked on stained glass windows, and a lot of lead, a lot of heavy metals. When she came in, she had a raspy voice because she had so many metals in her body. And sound and light therapy can detox heavy metals as well as dark leafy greens and other things. And so she would leave with a different voice.
How is that possible?
Yeah. And you detox this. That kind of is a trauma. Heavy metals is a trauma.
Sure.
So that trauma created her to have a missing tone, which made her voice raspy. When she released those metals, her voice changed.
I don't know if I might be making this up, or I'm misunderstanding it, but there was something I saw somewhere in the social media world or on YouTube or something, that they were finding out that they can actually target cancer cells with sound at the frequency of the I don't know if it's the frequency of the cancer cell or something, where in other words it's non-invasive, and it could just go in and it basically eradicates that cancerous cell while not touching anything else. Again, I'm not making any claims or anything like that. It's just something I heard. Yeah. Have you heard of anything similar? What is that?
So 111 hertz, some people were saying, but if you think about it, everybody's frequency is different in the morning, and it's different in the evening, and it's different in different seasons, sure, right? Yeah, so just like the Schulman frequency. So, and then Royal Rife had it. He had it down, but he used a universal microscope, and he stained the cells for each individual patient, so he could see where they were, meet them where they are. But a lot of people are using the Rife frequencies now that he used in the 40s or 50s. Well, cancer isn't the same frequency anymore.
Right.
It's different. So it's going to be different for every body. There is no one size fits all. We're all wired differently. So I believe if he was still around and using that universal microscope and staining the cells, we could really dial in to what the frequency of each person's, let's say, just cancer.
Or any disease.
Yeah, any disease.
Right.
And eradicate it with an exact opposite frequency to neutralize it from the cell.
So on a scientific standpoint.
I think it can work. But it's not going to be the same for everybody.
So has this been kind of tested in the scientific space? Like what kind of scientific studies? Has there been peer reviews or anything like that that's even been, or even rudimentary research? Because I know how the medical establishment is. So is there any sort of medical research about this stuff?
So the people who are doing sound and light don't have millions of dollars or billions of dollars to do these studies. So I have tried, but I don't think that studying 20 people between the ages of 16 and 90 is a really controlled study. So I've had doctors call me, well, have you done a controlled study? I go, for me, a controlled study is that they're the same sex, they're the same age, they have the same mother and father, they had the same job, they lived in the same city, they had the same diet. That would be a controlled study. When they say they do a controlled study and they range from 18 to 90 years old, males and females, sick and not sick,
different areas, different world,
so
environments,
for me, that doesn't tell. I'm an engineer, and that doesn't tell me anything. I need to see consistency. So I don't think there's a lot out there. People have made theories, but I don't think there's enough money to fund these kinds of studies.
So as far as sound therapy is concerned, how long has that been around?
40,000 years.
Okay. So within the last, is there anything in ancient history talking about sound therapy?
Yeah.
What cultures?
The ancient Egyptians, the Sumerians, the Aborigines, the Native Americans, the Greeks, all of them have something
Of sound therapy.
Yeah. And even if it was, think about the didgeridoo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there is research out there that the didgeridoo can help to heal bones. And there's research out there about flutes. And there's even stuff in the Bible about musicians using instruments to get rid of anger for certain characters in the Bible. So it's out there. It's been out there. But I don't think that there's a lot of money to be made by sitting in the sun or listening to music.
Or grounding.
Or grounding.
You're right, or something
Exactly.
along those lines. Sound baths are all the rage now. What is that just another kind of version of this where you're hitting, I know each of those bowls have a certain frequency, and then if you get the gong, each gong is at a certain frequency and so on. Is that kind of like because I've had sound baths done. They're amazing.
Yeah.
And they just kind of it's like this, it's literally what it's a sound bath. So you're being constantly bombarded with this sound at multiple frequencies. It's not like a healing scenario per se, like very surgical, like with this frequency to hit that. But it's an overall, like you're hitting with all these kinds of frequencies. And after I was done with many of them, I just feel like I feel good. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I feel good about it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So there's group healing and then there's individual healing. And so I love sound baths. We've been to the gong baths and, crystal bowls and like the little chimes, and I just go to another place. What happens with me as an empath, and I'm sure lots of your audience are empaths, I end up picking things up that people released.
Yeah.
And it's just a thing.
Yeah.
So I believe that there's healers out there that are brilliant and they know how to clear the room before and after. But there's healers out there that aren't. So people are walking out the door with other people's baggage. They got the wrong bag at the baggage claim, and they're carrying someone else's baggage out. So we want to be really careful about that. Mm-hmm. I like individual healing because I think when we heal ourselves, then we heal the planet, individually. Mm-hmm. But I love these things. I think they're the sound baths. There was an article not too long ago. It says Jim Carrey was seen leaving a sound bath. So it is catching on. It is becoming mainstream. It is they say it's the medicine of the future, but the future is now.
Yeah, people are talking about sound more than I've ever had before. I've had some guests on who talk about sound healing, sound frequency, and what the magic of it is. But it is a very powerful, you can viscerally feel it. I mean, you can't, it's kind of like when you go to an opera or you go to a classical, an orchestra or a symphony or something along those lines. The energy that you feel coming from, people who understand, like the performers who are at the top of their level, know how to play those instruments so perfectly. Mm-hmm. You feel this wave. I mean, people are brought to tears. People are brought to the emotions because the vibrations, the frequencies of these sounds are so powerful. So sound is no joke, right?
Oh my gosh, I love it. I'm obsessed with it now. And, looking at the different instruments, looking at the different historical societies that have used it. I went to Egypt and I felt like I brought back a lot of the Egyptian energy into, my technology. And then I went to Greece and I told my boyfriend, I said, we need to go to Greece because I have to go to the Asclepios healing area and pull some energy from there. And people will come in and say, oh my gosh, there's Egyptian energy in here. There's Greek energy in here. Everything's energy. Mm-hmm. And it's just such a beautiful thing. So
with everything that people know nowadays about healing, the term healing is very interesting because when you go to you have a headache and you take an aspirin, you healed, quote unquote. What is your definition of true healing?
True healing to me is you heal at the root. Okay, so some people are going to take and mask or put a Band-Aid on it. And that's what I knew that a drug was going to do for my migraines. It's going to put a Band-Aid on it. So what is the root cause of this? And there's books, Louise Hay and Michael Lincoln, Messages from the Body. Like, why are you having this? What is the root cause of it? And so when I looked at migraines, it could have been issues with liver, kidneys, but more importantly, dysautonomia, which is an imbalance in the autonomic nervous system. So basically stuck in fight or flight. There could be parasites. It could be heavy metals. So that's why doctors say we don't know why people get migraines. Same with tinnitus or tinnitus. There's so many reasons why people could have it. Could be inflammation, could be liver, could be kidneys, could be heavy metals, could be parasites. A lot of people have Epstein-Barr virus right now. And it seems to be a mutation of the old strep. I don't know, when you were a kid, did you have strep?
I had strep probably a few years ago.
Okay.
Because I have children.
No,
because that's fun.
Yeah.
They're lovely.
Right. They bring home all these gifts for you.
Can you just lick the floor when we walk into a place?
Right.
Just lick the handstand. Just lick the seats. Why are we wasting time?
I see little kids crawling onto the floor. They drop food. They pick it up. They eat it. It's like they're good.
I mean, well, they have to build their immune systems. I'm good.
Yeah,
I don't need any more. Please, thank you.
I love it. Yeah, so we want to look at the root cause. Mm-hmm. And that's where I look. I say, okay, what is the root cause? Different parts of the body are going to be different reasons that you have issues. Right. If you have a lot of liver problems, probably suppressing a lot of anger. Lung issues, probably suppressing a lot of grief. Kidney issues, probably suppressing a lot of fear. So every organ, every body part has a message that's trying to send you. And like we talked about in the movie, Deborah says, if you don't listen to the whispers, you get the nudges. If you don't listen to the nudges, you get the hammer. And the hammer is the cancers, the Parkinson's, the degenerative stage 4 illnesses. Because maybe you stubbed your toe, you didn't listen. Then you broke your ankle, you didn't listen. Then you tore your rotator cuff, still didn't listen, you get the hammer. We've got to learn to listen to our bodies.
And so why is it that the medical establishment has, since its inception essentially, really focused so much on the treatments, but not the root cause? They don't understand, and I know this is definitely a wormhole to say the least. I have a lot of doctors in my family. We have conversations about this all the time. I love, I forgot who said it in the movie, but they said modern medicine is great for heroics. You need a heart transplant, someone shot you, you got into a car accident. Don't rub an herb on me. Don't get the leaves away. Get me into a hospital. They're really great at that. But the long-term understanding of human health, they're not really great at that. Mm-hmm. So, I asked a relative right now who just became a doctor probably a couple of years ago and is not very happy about how the system is running. But that's another conversation. She's like, why did I do this? That I go, how much nutrition? Just nutritional study did you have in all the years in medical school? They're like, we took probably like 2 classes on nutrition. And I'm like, it's literally the guy who the Hippocratic Oath, that guy, he said food is thy medicine.
Right.
And yet it's not that. So why do you think the medical establishment has been focused so much on the treatments but not the root cause? Is it because there's not as much money to be made on that? I mean, I have to believe at a certain point, I mean, doctors are great.
Yeah.
Doctors are here to help us. I think most of them are, they're trying to assist us in the best way they know how. But a lot of them have been resistant to nutrition, to vitamin therapy, to the therapies we're talking about. Anything that's alternative outside of the norm, they don't even want to investigate it. This goes for all establishments in general, from science to everything. So why do you think?
Well, greed, we talk about this in the movie. Charles talks about it. Cynthia talks about it. Greed is one. But like I talk to people all the time, and we're the culmination of the things we listen to, the books we read, the shows that we watch, the people we hang around with. Well, it's not the doctor's fault that they weren't taught. This is what they're taught. This is what they're taught they're supposed to do as doctors. They take the Hippocratic Oath and to do no harm. But when they're in their training, they're taught that, Ozempic is a great drug. It's awesome. It's great for diabetes, and now it's weight loss. And now I'm talking to college kids, and they're saying you're not cool if you're not on Ozempic.
Well, if you're a college kid, unless you have a real medical issue for it, please don't take it.
Right. But they're taking it, and then you can't get off of it. So there's a lot of things. But this is what they're taught. When I worked for the doctor's office, and I was 17 years old, and I made a lot of observations. This doctor's office was in Michigan, and they prescribed diet pills to elderly women. And my boyfriend's grandmother was one of their patients. And I'm flipping through the charts, and I'm thinking, she's gained 20 pounds since she started these diet pills. And so I talked to the doctor, and he said, well, she said, they make me feel so good, and I can get my house clean. It was speed.
Of course it was.
And I was like, they put this old lady on speed.
Her heart is probably
Yeah, she's like, yeah, right, I'm getting on it.
Clean.
Right? So I got fired from that job because I was always questioning the doctors. But I'm watching the reps coming in, and they're maybe 20 years old. They had a weekend course about this drug, and they're coming in and telling the doctors, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. You need to give it to everybody. And I'm watching all three of them driving Porsches and going out all the time with these reps. And I'm making observations. And so people were coming up to the window and asking for things that they shouldn't be getting because you're supposed to only get that every 30 days. And I got fired.
Of course.
So I think it's a lot of just, they're not educated on how the body works. They're educated on how to prescribe something to heal a symptom, if that makes sense. And so it's not their fault, and they don't have time to dig into it because the insurance companies are saying, you got 5 minutes with this person. In 5 minutes, you can't tell me that you understand why this woman has a stomach ache. You put her on an ulcer medicine, but if you don't know that she's worried about her son because he's getting into some trouble.
No matter what you do.
And that's where the worry, the pancreas, the stomach. So if they're not asking her what emotions are going on, and they're not taught that, so it's not their fault. But we need to change the system. The system's neither health nor care. So we need to change that.
You were talking a little bit about the chakra system and things like that. How does the spiritual legacy, if you will, spiritual ideas play into energy and sound and light therapy? How is that all mixed in? Because you were saying like the red of the root chakra and that kind of stuff. Can you kind of dive into that a little bit?
So spiritually, I'm not sure if I'll answer this correctly or not, but I feel like the chakra system is so ancient, and it's ancient in Eastern medicine, and then we had Western medicine. And there's some theories about how we separated that years ago with the Vatican and the Pope trying to sell somebody's souls, and yeah, it just separated everything. So I feel like there is definitely spiritual forces in sound, and there's spiritual forces in light. And so that's how I would relate. That's how I would answer that question, that sound is spiritual, light is spiritual. And when we look at the way our body and our nervous system is set up, and we might be wrong. Maybe red is not the root chakra. Maybe purple is not the crown chakra.
But it's been red for 4,000 years.
Right.
Right.
But can it change? We don't know.
Yeah.
As the planet's changing,
Sure.
Look how much is changing right now.
Oh.
And so what if that all changes? But right now, red is the root chakra, Purple is the crown chakra. And we look at things from the spiritual forces of sound and the spiritual forces of light. So when I create music, and because I do still produce music, I look at what waveform of instrument do I want to use. So say we want to work on detoxing heavy metals. It's probably going to be some didgeridoos, some drumming to penetrate the density of the organs that are here and to release like heavy metals from being stuck in the bloodstream and the organs. You got to have a little bit of bass. We got to love that bass. And then we'll put on different light colors. You can do this at home. You can wear red. You can eat red foods. And I'm starting to study right now, like what foods are replenishing what vitamins and minerals. And is there a relationship to what color they are?
Well, there is.
Yeah.
I mean, there is. That's
So
scientific.
B vitamins and orange and red foods and orange light. So looking at how to replenish that way. So I think, not sure if I answered the question, but spiritually, I think that there's spiritual forces to sound and spiritual forces to light.
We've kind of dug into sound therapy a whole lot now. What about light therapy? Because, sound I get. I'm devil's advocate here. Sound I understand because you can literally feel it. But you walk into a box and there's some red light on you. Like I've heard of red, and this has now been proven, but like red therapy, or I think a red light therapy, where athletes are now recovering faster because of this red light therapy. Yeah. Can you explain what that is? Because that to me sounds so much more woo than sound frequency. Because sound frequency, you literally can see it, you can feel it. There is some studies behind it. But with light, you're like, what am I doing? Like I've been in saunas with a red light on. I'm like, does all red lights work? Does a specific red light work? What's happening there?
So every light color has a different spectrum. Okay. So reds and oranges are more stimulating, where greens are more neutral, blues are very calming, purple, calming, relaxing. And so that's kind of how I design my protocols. When you have red light therapy, it can actually increase the circulation. So that's why I think red light therapy is great for athletes with injuries, because it can increase the circulation, help that injury to heal faster. But you don't want to put a little kid on red light therapy. They're already crazy enough, right?
Yeah, they have enough energy and, oh God, their bodies. Yeah, my kids come up to me like, oh, my back hurts. I'm like, shut up. Just shut up. What is wrong with you? No, like you're sore. Like you're just sore because you did something in gym. Shut. Till you wake up and everything starts popping. I don't want to hear anything.
Oh my gosh, right? I know. Like I hear you, because after I turned 50, I'm like, what is this little pain?
50?
I don't know.
50's that mark. I don't know if it's like all of a sudden things just like pop, pop, pop. Like what is happening to me? It's
I have to change that mindset. I'm like, no, 50, I'm going
50
down.
Is the new 30.
Yes, I'm going to go down in age now, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Let me know if that works out.
Right. So even on red light, we don't use it for pets. Even because they don't need the
Cat
stimulation,
or a Russell
right?
Terrier.
Right. Oh yeah, can you imagine a Chihuahua?
Oh God.
So every color, I think, has a different spectrum. Look at McDonald's. Look at these restaurants. Think about it. There's a lot of red in McDonald's, Burger King,
KFC.
Arby's, KFC, stimulating the appetite.
And I don't mean to cut you off here, but color spectrum in the filmmaking world, that's extremely powerful storytelling, because if you put someone in a red jacket, it's very different if you put them in a green jacket or a blue jacket or a black. The standard black guy, the bad guy wears black, the good guy wears white, old school kind of stuff like that. So it's a very powerful, just that alone. We react to colors in a different way, but I never thought of it as a healing aspect or connection to it.
You don't want to paint your kitchen yellow. It stimulates the appetite. Look at the banks. A lot of banks are blues and greens, calming, trustworthy, hey, bring your money here.
Educated or wisdom comes from that look.
And there's no accident that look at the trees. I mean, I love looking at trees, every different color of green. Yeah. I can't even explain all the colors of green and the grass, and it's a neutral color. It's a healing color. And so when we look at color, we have to look at what does it affect? How does it affect the body? And not everybody's going to respond the same to every color. Like I have one lady, I put her on orange light one time, and she's like, I hate orange light. Okay, let's dig into this. Why do you hate orange light? At the root cause, after about an hour conversation, when she was born, it was a traumatic birth. And what she remembers is that the nurses had orange smocks on.
That's the association,
Right.
subconscious.
And she was 25 years old.
Yeah. And that's what she remembered that.
Yeah.
Interesting. So each light, does it matter the quality of light? Could it be just a cheap red light, or does it have to be a specific kind of light?
Well, they say, and the ancients used to say, you want to have silk. They would dye silks, and that would be the thing. You would drape it over you to have that color infused in your energy field. Yeah. So for me, I would love to use fiber optics. I think that the technology will change, but right now I'm using like a non-off-gassing mercury LED light spectrum because I wanted to get most of the light spectrum. I can get almost the full red to purple light spectrum with these lights.
Yeah, they're pretty powerful.
Yeah. So I'm sure an incandescent painted light bulb will still be showing your eyes the color. Because your eyes are going to still see that color.
So it's not okay. So yeah, because that was the thing that I was trying to really be confused, because if you were in let's say a cheap sauna, like a little cheapy sauna, and they had this little red light there, I'm like, what is this supposed to do?
Yeah.
I was like, there has to be like a special kind of bulb or a special kind of light to give you the special thing. So any red bulb, any yellow bulb, any green bulb, or anything like that, it's just.
I believe so.
Okay.
And even if you're wearing red.
Right.
And you're absorbing that into your body. Because the sunlight, you don't have to have your eyes open to get the benefit from the sunlight. We all lay out in the sun, and we get the healing energy of the sun when we've got our eyes closed and we're just there. Yeah, so I don't think so.
So is that why when you walk there's many reasons why you walk amongst nature, or you're at the beach, the energy, the grounding, the ions from coming in from the waters and things, but just the color spectrums of those areas are so peaceful and relaxing and calming. You go to Zion National Park, or Yosemite, or Sequoia, and you just sit there and just like, but there's the energy, of course, of the plants, of the nature, of all that stuff. But just on a color spectrum, that also has a relaxing, calming effect on us, right?
Absolutely.
So that's that's the spectrum of color. So we have sound, then we have light, and then is energy healing?
There's vibration.
Vibration.
Yeah.
So how is that different than frequency?
Okay, so let me see. There's a sonic massage that you can get with listening to music. So you're not going to get that if you're just listening to speakers that don't have a bass or they don't have a subwoofer. But when you add the subwoofer in and you add the music, the intention of the music, because there's intention too. Like Jonathan Goldman says, frequency plus intention equals healing, right?
Yeah, Jonathan, he's great.
He's great.
He's wonderful.
I haven't gotten his attention yet, but someday. So when you get that all going, but that's the subwoofer and the bass. I mean, think about how you feel at a concert when that bass is hitting your chest.
Oh God! Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. I mean, it can be a little overwhelming because you can also have too much of that. But I think that's the vibration that helps people to heal. We have those exercise plates now, the vibrational plates. It shakes the body.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's vibration. It's different than frequencies, different than sound, different than light. But when you combine it all together, you have a lot of modalities in one.
So you mentioned Tesla before. How does the sacred geometry of Tesla's math contribute to healing or energy healing?
So everything in nature is sacred geometry. And I think the pyramids are still standing today when the office building down the road from 10 years ago isn't standing.
Correct.
Because of sacred geometry. And I think nature respects sacred geometry. You go outside, I think Tesla talks about 3s, 6s, and 9s. And I've observed nature quite a bit now because of the Tesla mathematics. And 3-leaf clovers, to me, are more natural than a 4-leaf clover. So is a 4-leaf clover like a mutation? Because you look at petals of flowers, you'll see 12, you'll see 9, you'll see 6, you'll see all divisible by 3. And so I find it fascinating to watch nature and how I see the 3s, 6s, and 9s all the time. And so I love sacred geometry. I think sacred geometry has a symbiotic relationship with nature. My technology has a lot of sacred geometry in it. We've had them in Maui. They're still standing. the Marshall fires in Colorado. I'd like the fires went around the centers, Fort Myers hurricanes, flooding, so many different things. And it never, a tornado in Texas, in Garland, just went around the center. Like, how is this, how do you explain that?
Interesting. That's fascinating. Now, you also mentioned intention. Can you talk a little bit about what intention means to the energy behind intention? Because intention just means like, I'm intending to hurt you, even though I'm a serial killer, and I'm Ted Bundy, and come just help me with the couch in the back of my car, kind of thing. So my intentions are obviously dubious, but outside I'm fine. So intention that's what people pick up on, because those kind of characters don't get all of their victims because they can pick up on the intention. Right. Something is telling them that. How does that intention work in healing?
So how we use intention, which is so lovely, is when two or more are gathered. So you got a practitioner, you've got a client, and they're saying, you know what, I really want to attract a different job or a different partner in my life. So we help them set the intention and say, okay, feel what it would feel like in all the cells of your being to wake up in the morning without your alarm clock. You can't wait to go to work. How is that going to feel? And you start attracting what you intend. We all know, some people do this. Oh my gosh, I know I'm going to get in a car accident that day. And they're like, you know what, I got in a car accident. Or my mom has breast cancer, so I know I'm going to get breast cancer. Guess what? They get breast cancer. And so that's an intention that you don't want to set. You set an intention of, and this is how I set my whole life. I intend that everything's going to go well for me. Right. Everything's going to work out. Everything's going to flow. And no matter what happens, it's all for a reason. And that's how my life works. I was actually in a little car accident the other day. A guy was going down I-25 in Denver. It was dark out. And he tagged me, but I just felt this little bump. And I was like, I think he just hit me. And I heard screeching and squealing. And he pulled over on the shoulder, and I pulled over behind him on the shoulder. And I thought, it's dark out. I'm by myself. Is this guy, did he tag me to, carjack me or something? I'm going to wait till he gets out of the car, see what he looks like, size him up. And then, I'll get out of the car.
Feel that intention.
Right. Feel that intention. What is his intention, right? Mm-hmm. So he gets out of the car. He looked so scared. And he said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't think I hit you. I said, no, you tagged me. And he said, no, I don't think I did. He goes, but I should have. He said, we're going to the hockey game. I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at my phone. I was speeding. I was talking to my buddy. And he was so sweet in how he looked so scared. I gave him a hug.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just hugged a guy for hitting me. What is wrong with me? And he was like, you're handling this so well. And, because it could have gone very wrong for him.
Yeah.
Very wrong. Mm-hmm. And we looked at my bumper. It had a little scuff on it. I said, go enjoy the game. He's like, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I'm sure. Just go. And he's like, thank you. And I thought, that's why I created the movie. And we'll come back to the movie. Because I wanted people to do things with more kindness. There's no reason to scream and yell. He was so sorry. Mm-hmm. He felt horrible. What am I going to do? Scream and yell at him? Attack him? And I just want people to do things with more kindness, more love, and have that intention. When you go out, everything's going to work out for you. Everything's going to flow.
So people that use these therapies, what is the long-term effects? Meaning, like, how long do they stay healed? How long do they feel better? Are you stuck on it? You like, I have to keep going back 1,000 times, like a drug, like I need to stay with this for the rest of my life. I mean, periodically, of course, you're going to have to, if you get a massage, it wears off.
Yeah.
Do a lot of these healings do that, or can you actually heal something if other things are in play and not have to worry about that specific thing anymore?
I think the body in the right environment can heal itself.
Yeah.
We know if our bone breaks, it's going to heal. Mm-hmm. We know if we scratch ourselves, it's going to scab over and heal. But I think people get caught up with what the medical community says. Oh, you're going to have this forever, or it's a death sentence. And I don't think it is. But I don't want people to be dependent on energy healing. I want them to heal their own bodies. But this is a support. These modalities, these healers are support for us to heal ourselves. We need to heal ourselves. We shouldn't be going to a doctor and saying, what do I take? What's wrong with me? we should be going, hey, this is what I think is going on. Can you help me with this? I've had clients that had to fire because I don't want people dependent on it. But there's a small part of the population that is so identified with their disease that it's exciting for them. And I had one lady, I think she believed if she healed, her husband would leave her.
Oh, so that belief.
That belief overcame everything.
Anything else.
She was never getting better, but she kept coming back. And I said, I just can't help you anymore. You have to help yourself. And I went to a networking event one time, and this guy was running around. He had created a whole, where you donate to a foundation, a whole foundation around his wife's illness. And he's like, now she's allergic to laundry soap. And he seemed excited about it. Mm-hmm. And so then when he came up to me and he said, what do you do? I said, I'm in transition. I wasn't going to waste my oxygen and my breath to tell him what I did because he was excited to have his wife so sick.
That's an interesting idea because, I mean, Munchausen syndrome is a great idea. You know Munchausen syndrome, where the parent will basically make the child sick.
Oh, yes.
So they can get attention.
Right.
It's like this, so they slowly, poison them. I mean, literally, there's many famous cases about that. So Munchausen syndrome is something like that, where the disease is just another form for the ego to get attention, or a belief like all the love I get is because of my disease, and if I heal myself, I'll lose everybody around me. These kind of stories, belief systems are very, very powerful in our world, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. And I do have clients like that, and they almost, their kid starts to walk and they push them down. Oh, no, you can't walk. You're sick. You're this, you're that.
Because it's a box that they're comfortable
so it's the same. I didn't hear of it as a disease kind of a thing, what you just said, but yeah, it's a thing.
It's something that it's a story where it was kind of like when you're in a bad relationship. You're like, well, I know this crazy. This new unknown crazy that could possibly come is scary. I know this one, and better the devil you know than the devil you don't. And that kind of goes along with healing as well, especially with people with chronic diseases or chronic ideas about what they had. Like I had issues with I thought I had issues with my ankles for years. I twisted my ankles, broke them, tore them apart, ripped out ligaments. Throughout my entire life, I had just ankle issues. And I just thought I had weak ankles. I went to the doctor, went to orthopedic surgeons. I go, are my ankles just weak? And he would test me, and they were like, no, man, your ankles are fine. And only within the last 3 or 4 years, I found out it was my hips. My hips were so out of alignment that I would always fall.
Wow.
When I was in athletics, since I was a child. So then I did therapy, and I was able to do a squat, and now I'm fine. And I have no issues with my ankles. But it was the story I told myself, because that was all proof I had. Who would have known my hips?
Right.
Was it with the problem? And I had to get physical therapy to strengthen those areas and stretch it all out. And then once that happened, the body was in alignment. Didn't
you ever sing that song? The wrist bone's connected to the elbow bone, the ankle bone's connected to the hip bone.
But that's kind of a version of that. That was the story I was telling myself. So people do, and I think people listening, if they have some sort of chronic thing. I'm not going to the extreme of cancer, but just anything chronic, headaches or this or that. Analyze the story you're telling yourself about those illnesses and see if there's anything behind what we're saying here.
Right.
Because that could be one of the things that is really stopping you. Because perfect example, there was I know these stories all the time where a doctor doesn't tell, or that the patient doesn't know that they have cancer or that the cancer is that serious. And they've been filled with positivity, like you're going to break, and they think there's hope. The moment that they have hope, it pushes them forward because that's the story they're telling them, and the body reacts accordingly. But the second a doctor's like, "Oh, you really only have 3 months to live," the moment that happened, they die 3 months later. Mm-hmm. It's all in here. It's the placebo effect, right? Can you talk a little bit about the placebo effect and that idea of whatever we actually believe, and we can't be delusional about things like, I don't have cancer. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to go to that extreme, but there is some validity to what we're talking about, mm-hmm. correct?
Oh, definitely. I wet my bed until I was 8 years old, and I'm sure there was some kind of a stress around that. Mm-hmm. And I was so embarrassed, right? My mom took me to the doctor, and the doctor said, here's a little red pill. If you take this, you won't pee your bed anymore. And guess what? I didn't. I think it was just a little sugar pill.
It's a sugar
yeah,
pill.
Yeah. But in my head, I was like, oh, thank God, because I'm so like, I don't know how to
need
not.
those red pills.
Right. I need those red pills, right? So I think it's the same thing. I mean, you nailed it when you said, if somebody says you're only going to live for 3 more months, most of them are dead within the 3 months.
If they believe it.
Yeah.
If they believe
right.
it.
If they believe it.
If
right.
they believe it.
Because our mind is so powerful.
And that goes along with like you're
right.
worthless. All these stories that we tell ourselves. And I'm bringing these ideas in because the stories that we tell ourselves are the things that control our lives in all aspects of it, and healing being one of the major ones. If your belief system is that, I mean, I would be curious to think if like, I want to say McDonald's, fast food is the cure to all of my woes. And they truly believed it. I'm curious if they ate like nothing but fast food.
And they were fine.
And they were fine. Well, there are people who do that, by the way. Yeah. There's a guy who ate a Big Mac for 40 years. Yeah. He has the record. He's this thin.
Yeah.
He has no problems physically, like his heart's fine, the diabetes. And it makes no sense why that works. Like, how did that happen where if you or I did that, we'd be dead?
If we thought so, but maybe not.
I mean, there was a documentary years ago, centenarians who were just doing whatever they wanted to at like 100, 110. There was this guy in England. I never forgot this guy. He was like 110. He jogged every day. He smoked like 3 packs a day, had been for like 70 years, drank pints every day at the bar. At the pub, and he's like, don't live like me, you'll die. And I was just like, this is the best.
I know.
But he goes, but don't do what I do. It works for me, but I doubt that it'll work for you. It's a fascinating idea, but the mentality behind that is.
Well, and he told himself a story that he can do this and it won't affect him. Like like you said, we tell ourselves stories every day. I was at the hair salon the other day, and they were talking about relationships, and he says, well, how many marriages do you have before you realize, you're not the marrying type? And I'm like, 2. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I've been married twice. And, I said, my second marriage, I said, I flew to Peru. He had been there for a week. I got there, and he said, I fell in love with the assistant tour guide, so I want a divorce when I got there.
I'm like,
yeah, he was there for a week. And he's like, you're lying. The guy at the hair salon, you're lying. I'm like, no, it's a true story. I said, my life is stranger than fiction. My stories are my stories, but they're not who I am. If I define myself by that, I would probably say I'm terrible. I suck at relationships. I can say all these things to myself. But if you believe them, then you do suck at relationships.
Manifestation of it.
Right. And I don't believe that. I believe that I was in a vibration where I was attracting something because I didn't love myself. And now I'm in this wonderful relationship where I've attracted this loving person that takes such good care of me. And I'm in gratitude, and I stay in that place of gratitude, and I keep attracting more good stuff.
But also to a certain extent, too, that those other relationships, and I can speak for myself, not in your case, but just as general, all those negative things that happened to you were lessons I needed to learn at that moment in my life for me to be to where I am today. I wouldn't be where I'm sitting here today without all of the pain, suffering, and experiences that I've gone through in my life. It hasn't all been peaches and cream. So, and only when you go through those difficult times and challenging times is when you grow the most, because you're being tested on what you really want. Like, okay, let's see if this person learned a lesson. Let's send them another narcissist. Let's send him another narcissist, or her another narcissist, to see if he or she figured this out. Like, I don't want this anymore. Yeah. But we're going to make him or her look exactly the way they would want. And they'll walk in, it'll start good, but then it'll start to do what happens when you date a narcissist. Yeah. Let's see. Or are they going to go down this road again? Because this guy's going to be worse than the last 3. We're going to make this one, this is the hammer. So let's see if this person avoids the hammer, if they've learned the lesson. Yeah. You agree?
100%, because I wouldn't be the person I am today. And that's why people say, do you have any regrets? I said, no. Because I would not be the person I am today if my dad wasn't an alcoholic and I wasn't molested by the priest of the parish when I was 14 and my 2 divorces. And I'm like, I wouldn't be who I am. And I couldn't teach what I teach. I couldn't tell people Well, you were what, 27 when you almost went through the bankruptcy?
Oh, when I
was 27.
When I did the movie for the mob and
Yeah.
all that kind
I
of
was
stuff,
27 and I went through it because I was so stubborn. I said, nope, I'm going to do this corporate job. I'm going to work in corporate. And every door kept getting slammed until I lost my identity. I felt like I was stripped naked, and here I am. I have no identity. I'm this big loser now. And, and the only thing that was available to me was to do the wellness center. And so, yes, I believe that when I was with my soul family in another universe, I took my last sip of tea and I said, well, I'm going to Earth, guys. I'll see you in 100 years or so.
And so,
I had to learn
and
all
what
that.
lesson should we learn this time?
Yeah.
Oh, let's all sit down and okay, oh, you need to do this one. Oh, this one's going to be a doozy.
Yeah,
oh, this is going to be
yeah.
great.
And we're all excited. And then we
we're
come
like,
down.
oh, this one's going to be super painful. Oh, you're going to love this one. It's hard for us down here as the characters being played out in this insane simulation play that we're in. But on the other side, it's kind of like looking at a movie or a TV show when you've seen characters go through pain. The only way you attach yourselves more to a character is when you throw obstacles in front of them, when you challenge them. Because if they're just, life is going, it's boring. And they're not learning and they're not growing. So with that said, you don't have to have all that all the time. But if you are learning these lessons, and that's why we're all here, is to learn these lessons. And the healing journey is that as well. Trying to, if you have something inside of you that's off balance, it is your responsibility, if you want to educate yourself, learn about this stuff. I have relatives who had chronic issues, and they went to multiple doctors and couldn't figure out what the heck. The doctors were just like, I don't know. And they started doing their own research, reading their own books, and started to heal themselves by trigger pointing, which is so powerful, or some other things like that, is like, oh my God, this is like, oh yeah, what's wrong here? Oh, hold on a second. And you hit the trigger, you go, oh.
Yeah.
And you're better now. And it's all science. It's not even woo stuff. It's amazing.
No, I had a guy with drop foot, and
Drop foot?
It's where you drag your foot and you
Okay.
just can't pick it up.
Yeah.
And he thought, well, it's an Achilles tendon, it's this, it's that, it's the ankle, it's a weak ankle, it's something. Everything's connected. It was the right foot had drop foot. His C1 was off. As soon as the chiropractor adjusted C1, he started walking.
Because the connection with the nerve.
Came down and connected right there. Wow. I mean, all the information's out there for us to heal ourselves. We have to go look for it. Mm-hmm. We have to study. We have to research. But who knows your body better than you?
And I think that the big problem we have, and I think it wasn't as much, I think our generation was one of the first to kind of break free from this. And definitely the generation that's coming after us. But like our parents' generation and and grandparents' generation, the white coat was all powerful, just like the priest was all powerful, just like the politician was all powerful, like the banker was all powerful. Like if you had some sort of professional, you know what I don't know anything. You must so if the white coat said it, the white coat, that's what it was. Where now it's going to be like, at least a lot of the more holistic MDs are starting to like, no, you need to do this, you need to do that. They're throwing responsibility on their patients a bit more because they can't do it all, and they are aware of it. At least the good ones are.
Yeah.
They're aware of that. They cannot heal you if you don't work with them. If you don't heal yourself, they're like, don't smoke six packs a day. Don't drink. Stop watching that documentary. That guy's not. Well, that's not you. But you have to be able to do it yourself. And I think the biggest problem we have in at least Western society is giving our power away to not just the medical field, but to all aspects of our lives, whether it's financial, whether it's political, where it's health, where it's our entertainment. You're giving away your power, and I think. What's happening, in the world, the shift is happening, is we're starting to empower ourselves. We're starting to educate ourselves, and it all started with the internet.
Yeah.
The connection of information, the direct connection to information worldwide has allowed us to kind of find out things that would have taken us forever to research and to really find good information about. Would you agree?
100%. My parents were both medical erudites and in their 70s because they gave their power away. Yeah, my dad worked in an asbestos plant for 30 years.
Well, there's that.
And they said, you have COPD because they wouldn't test him for mesothelioma. And so then he was on 9 different drugs, antidepressants, painkillers, inhaler after inhaler for mesothelioma because they were treating him for COPD. And he suffered a horrible end of his life for the last 4 years. And my mom, just similar situation, but they gave away their power. And we need to take our power back. And that's the thing. People are complaining, grocery store prices are so high, blah, blah, blah. Then grow your own food. Right? I think that we should be, I was going to write to one of the local news people and say what you should do is suggest that we give free seeds away to people. Once we start growing our own food, they're not going to be able to charge those high grocery store prices because we're not going to buy them. We're going to grow our own food.
And it's just getting your power back.
Yeah.
In all aspects of our lives, and hopefully these kind of conversations empower people to start at least, even investigate what we're talking about. Please don't take anything that we say at face value. You should do your own research. You should do your own testing. See it for yourself. I'm a very grounded, I know it's weird, but I'm a very grounded guy.
Yeah.
I try to look at things very even keel. I do understand the things of the spiritual nature and stuff, but even the stuff I talk about in the spiritual nature, there's so much proof, so much knowledge, or so much history behind certain things, like the chakra system. People are like, "Oh, you're talking about chakra?" It's been around for 7,000 plus years in the Indian and the East. Yeah. Ideas and versions of it throughout multiple cultures. You can't tell me that there's nothing valid there, or Chinese medicine, or Ayurvedic medicine. You can't dismiss thousands of years. That's something that worked.
Yeah.
Now, is it as cool as like a heart transplant? No. But again, what we have today is very wonderful for heroics, but long term, let's look at the old things, see what was working.
Well, and people don't understand that everything is connected. Well, we keep talking about that, but even the teeth are connected to the meridian lines from Chinese medicine. Mm-hmm. So people would have, say, a root canal on their, one of my clients had a root canal on her stomach and ovarian meridian lines. And within a few weeks, she had stomach and ovarian cancer. And this is when she came to me and she said, Gail, you have to educate people and tell them that it's connected. It's a connection. And I was like, what? Like, just crazy stuff. And so it's all out there. There's teeth meridian charts you can look up if you have a sore tooth, or you can look at what vertebrae are connected to that tooth, what organs, what systems of the body. It's all there. You just have to research.
And we actually have a documentary on Next Level Soul TV talking specifically about root. It's called Root Cause.
I gotta watch that.
It's a whole documentary about that thing. How they've now. It's just now they're studying it. They're like, no, things that have to do with root canals and things like that are being studied now. They're like, wait a minute, is there a connection here? And again, investigate it yourself. Yeah. There's a lot of literature and research out there about it.
But without the internet, like you said, we would have taken a lot longer to find these solutions. Mm-hmm. But now there's really no excuse to not research what's going on and what messages your body is sending you. I mean, it's brilliant.
Now, tell me about It's Time. I love the name of it, by the way, the movie It's Time. What caused you to kind of, because that's a whole thing, putting together a movie. It wasn't cheap to put something like this together. So what caused you to put this out there? And you're really just kind of, it's on our platform, but, it's not something that you're trying to make $1 billion with or anything like that. What was the cause of it?
Well, I just started to see people were really angry and people were not treating each other very well. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people are on antidepressants, and I know it blocks the functioning in the nervous system. It numbs people down. And so I'm seeing a lot of that. And I thought, I'm just going to put out a movie. I'm going to talk about sound and light therapy. I'm going to talk about listening to your body, but I'm also going to talk about being more kind. And I knew that our USA election was coming up. And so I said, I need this out before the election. So I need to put out a documentary. And I decided to start it like January. And so that gave me like 9 months. It's kind of quick to turn around.
It's quick.
Yeah. So I put everything else on hold. I said, I'm going to do this. And I knew that I didn't want some of the, people that you've interviewed. I didn't want the Greg Bradens and the Joe Dispenzas because, they've said what they have to say. Let me get some, no-name people that I respect, that I've been studying and, they've been my mentors. Let me bring them on to tell their story. And so we open it up with judgment is the only thing that separates us. And then we close the movie talking about doing something else. There's a Muhammad Ali quote. if 10% of the people would do more with love and kindness, we could change the world. So I wanted to create that space for people to see that we're all connected, that we're all one, and that we should treat each other better. And none of us is getting out alive. I don't care how much money you have. Nobody's getting out alive, right?
Everyone wants to go to heaven, just not right now.
Yeah.
So it's such a beautiful film, and we also have an extended interviews series as well of all your amazing speakers on there. Now I want to also talk about your harmonic egg. Weird as hell. Let's just throw it out there at the beginning. I mean, it sounds weird when you want me to walk into an egg. What is happening here? Talk to me a little bit about what this thing you developed is.
It was a channeled download, however you want to call it. I was working with the Lightbox, but I was finding that the clients were saying, well, the music sounds distorted coming up through a foam pad, and the light bulb's a little cheesy. It's just painted, right? And I thought, well, life comes from an egg. Let's just build a large wooden egg. Okay, so I called some manufacturers, and the one manufacturer said, it's impossible. And I'm a Scorpio. I'm a stellium in Scorpio, so I'm pretty stubborn. And if you tell me no, or you tell me I can't do something, then just get out of my way, because I got to go do it now. And I said, well, Walt Disney said if you could dream it, you could do it. And he said, well, you're not Walt Disney.
Wow.
I said, well, get out of my way. And I didn't want, we talked about crystals in the beginning a little bit. Crystals are great, but they hold information and energy. Wood does not. And so I created it made out of wood. And
what
I
kind
use
of wood?
It's walnut in the inside right now, and it's the spiritual properties and the way walnut's harvested, and the grain, how it's so tight, it doesn't, it won't hold any kind of fungus or viruses or anything.
And on a side note, by the way, the walnut itself, if you crack it open, it is a complete representation of the brain.
Yes.
And it actually, if you eat it, it's actually good for
your brain. I know, crazy, right? Isn't nature awesome? Because that's what I find in nature. Right. I love those kind of stories.
Yeah.
Amazing. And just I cut open what was it? It was one of my red peppers from my garden, and it was just so beautiful. And it just had 3, and like I said about the 3s, and it had 3 little veins, and I'm like, this is just so beautiful. And then the lady that talked about her dog's balls being beautiful, right, on that show. And you're like, I don't think anybody's talked about their dog's balls on the show, but she was like, it was beautiful.
Recently, we had someone talking about beautiful dog balls.
I think it was Marie.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So, your show's great.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And so, what were we talking about? The harmonic egg,
right?
Egg,
yes, this giant egg I've made out of wood. Yes.
Yeah, right. So I thought if people could go in, and I did. I used Edgar Cayce's consciousness, Royal Rife's consciousness with frequencies, the Oregon box with Wilhelm Reich, that consciousness, Tesla, and I said, let's use frequency, vibration, sound waves, and light waves, and let's put it in one modality, and let's put people in there by themselves. Claustrophobia is no problem. There's a doorbell in there. They can push the door open. But get them in there to heal themselves. And I'm finding that it's really saved my life. It's been such a beautiful thing. And it's not from me. It came through me. And so it's just a beautiful galactic technology that people can heal individually. And they're raising their vibration to connect to their higher self. And I'm seeing them take their power back. I'm seeing more kindness. I'm seeing more love. In the business model that I created, the brand attributes are love, integrity, reliability, and community. And that's how I expect all the egg guardians to conduct their business with their clients. It's not a franchise. It's franchises are very patriarchal. It's a business model of the matriarchal, divine feminine, and the cooperation, not competition. And I think that's how we can change the world.
So yes, your business model is not this normal kind of franchise thing. It's kind of like, everyone should benefit from this.
Right.
As opposed to, having to pay a franchise fee and all that kind of stuff.
The pyramid with the rich person at the top just doesn't work. And your shows have been talking about the flattening, and a lot of your channelers are saying things are flattening, the systems are crashing, things are changing. So I hope this business model catches on where people can share and create abundance for more than just themselves. And so that's what I want. I want this show to come out. I want all the center owners to be packed out, and, it's creating abundance for them too.
And then how many centers do you have around the country?
Over 150 in 12 countries. Yeah.
In 12 countries? Yeah. Really?
Yeah. And I didn't really market this.
I've never, it's not a mass marketed thing.
No. The egg finds you. And that's okay.
Stop. Don't use that as a marketing tool. It's not going to work. You're not going to get the construction worker to come out to the egg will find you. It's just very Mork and Mindy.
Right? Mork and everybody teases me about that because I'm near Boulder, right? And they're like, is this like Mork from Ork's Egg? And I'm like, sure. Yeah.
Nanu.
Yeah, exactly.
So the egg will find you. But it's a non-invasive thing. It's something that anyone could try, and the proof is in the pudding.
Right.
The proof is in the pudding on anything that you study and anything you look into, and any of these kind of modalities. Some people work with Ayurvedic, some people work with Chinese herbs, and other people work with sound healing or sound baths, or There's so many ways to heal yourself, not only emotionally, not only physically, but emotionally, mentally, even spiritually.
Yeah.
How to heal traumas, how to heal things within yourself. But I hope that anyone listening could understand that the power is truly within you. It's just your choice whether or not you want to take the appropriate steps to learn enough to try or attempt to learn about how to heal yourself in all modalities in your life, all these different things.
Because not everybody's going to want this. There's red light therapy, there's Novathor beds, there's Juve, there's a new amortal chamber. I mean, all this stuff is coming out now.
Cold therapy.
Yeah.
Stuff, yeah.
And I think it's so beautiful because we're not all the same galactic beings. We're all different. And we're not going to all heal with the same frequencies or modalities. So I just tell people to be discerning. Tune into your intuition. If your stomach gets really sick when you see something, that's probably not for you.
Mm-hmm. There was one thing that I forgot where I heard it. One of my guests. It might be an episode that hasn't aired yet, but actually no, it was in our Wisdom from Beyond Summit that we had with all of our channelers. There was a question asked about healing, and the speaker said, allow for synchronicities to happen. Don't judge what is in front of you. Feel it. Have intuition about it. Think about it. Put intention out into the world. So from what I've learned on this show is that when you ask for help out loud, it does come. Maybe not at your timeline, and especially not the way you think it's going to come. But if you can truly open yourself up to these ideas and open up yourself to whatever comes into your life, understand that it is for your better. It might not look like it at the moment. That narcissist coming in is at the end of the day for your better if you deal with it in the appropriate way to learn those lessons. Yeah. But in the sense of healing, open yourself up to the intention, ask for help, and the egg will find you. No, I'm joking. But whatever thing that will help you heal, open yourself up to finding it. And it might just be a podcast episode. It might just be watching something on a platform. It might just be a book that you find at a library or at a bookstore, if they're still even around. These kind of things, because you have to open yourself up to it. I mean, and I've said this 1,000 times on the show, this makes no sense to me. Yeah. That I'm here doing this in this world, talking to you about this kind of stuff. If I would have been told this 5 years ago, I said, this is insane. But I've opened myself up to the synchronicities of the universe kind of guiding me through my life. And when I let go of those reins a bit, still have responsibility for yourself. But when I let go of those reins, life just seemed to flow a lot better. So I think, would you agree with in regards to the intention of trying to heal yourself? Put it out there like, I'm in pain, I need help. Get me the right book, get me the right show, get me the right information, connect me to the right person who will teach me or help me get healed. Does that make sense?
100%. No, I mean, you just got to let things flow. I had a mentor of mine. I was real antsy at a seminar one time, and I was like, oh, I don't want to listen to another speaker. And I get real, just jittery. I'm like, I got to get up. I got to move. Yeah. And he noticed this. So he passes me a piece of paper. I open it up, and it says LIFE. Let it flow effortlessly. And I had a bracelet made that stamped let it flow effortlessly. And that's what you just open yourself up. You ask, and it might be not in your timing. But
never is.
It never is. But that's why we're not in charge of, what did people say? We're not in charge of the how.
Yeah, the how.
Yeah, okay. And so we just ask, and then we let it unfold. I used to have one of those successories things on my desk because I manage like 120 people in project management. Some people watch things happen. Some people make things happen. Some people wonder what happened. And I threw that thing away because I made my first marriage happen. I made my second marriage happen. And now I should have said, well, I wonder what happened, right? Because it should have never been. If I was letting things flow and I was paying attention to all the roadblocks and how much struggle I was having to get into these relationships, and I just let it flow, but that was my lesson.
And now you can talk about it because you went through it. You can't talk about it until you go through it. Really.
Yeah.
Really. Now, Gail, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Ask all my guests. What is your definition of living a fulfilled life?
Living a fulfilled life is not having a schedule, not having to worry about anything, and just letting things flow.
Beautiful question. Letting
it flow.
If you had a chance to go back in time and talk to little Gail, what advice would you give her?
Be brave, be strong, listen to your intuition, and say yes to life.
How do you define God or source?
And I knew you were going to ask me these questions. And now I'm like, oh my God, now Amalia, I'm on the spot now. I think, I am God, you are God, everything is God. So I'm going to answer it that way.
What is love?
Love is the highest vibration. And I believe, like we talked about earlier, disease doesn't live in love. Love is just the highest vibration.
Is that why chicken soup works so well? Because of the love and intention of the grandmother or mother making it?
It could be. Did you ever eat something and you felt angry after you ate it?
Absolutely. Well, most fast food, because the people preparing
it. Right. They're all angry. Right. And so I feel that, my boyfriend makes me 5 days a week, and then he makes me leftovers. But there's so much love. He's like a little Mexican grandmother. He's hilarious. And there's so much love in that. It's just nourishing. It just feeds my soul.
There's a restaurant here in Austin. Oh God, I forgot the name of it. But it's kind of like this. It's not communal, but it's basically you have one. They just whatever they have for lunch is what you're eating.
Oh yeah.
Whatever you have for dinner is what you're eating, and that's it. And it's all organic and clean and organized. You walk into this area, Chanus. Is it Chanus? I think it might be Chanus. And you walk into this area and you feel the energy of the space already. And there's like, the metaphysical store there, and there's like a juice bar there, and it's like this whole like little community. But in the back, it's this restaurant, and the food. You could just feel the energy of the food. You can taste it. It's like, and when you go to let's say a fine dining restaurant, the effort, the energy, the attention and the intention of the food, the chef focused so much on making sure that was there. People feel that, taste it. It's so powerful.
I agree, 100%.
And what is the ultimate purpose of life?
I guess the ultimate purpose of life for me is to experience everything. When I played softball for 30 years. And so I feel like at the end of my life, I'm sliding into home base. I am safe. I've done everything I could possibly do in this lifetime. And like I said, when I told my friends up there in the galactic, I'd take another, drink of coffee and we'll see you in 100 years. I'm going to Earth. When I'm done, that's, I want to experience everything, all the emotions, everything, and then just slide into home base, safe, you're done.
Beautiful. Now, where can people find out more about you and your centers and everything you're doing?
HarmonicEgg.com. And that's where everything is, all the locations. Just search for a location and you'll find it, hopefully one near you. And then itstime.love is the film. And that's what I would like to get. My goal is to get 1 million people to watch it. I'm not charging anything. It'll be on your platform. It'll be everywhere. YouTube, Rumble, itstime.love. I just would like to see 1 million people watch it and do one more thing with love and kindness.
Well, they'll definitely be able to watch it on Next Level Soul TV. And I hope that this episode helps drive some more people to watch it wherever they decide to watch it, because it's a message that needs to get out there. Yeah. So, and do you have any parting messages for the audience?
I would say, because we talked about story, I'm going to say, don't be your story. Change rise above your story. Know that you're not your story. You're a wonderful, awesome being, and learn to love yourself.
Beautifully said, Gail. Gail, it's been such a pleasure meeting you and having this conversation.
Thank you.
And thank you for putting everything out in the world that you're doing, especially this movie and the work that you do. So I appreciate you helping awaken this planet.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey, and don't forget to subscribe.